Welcome to Hump Day Hangouts. This is episode number 565. Today is the 24th of September, 2025. We are going to jump into answering your local SEO questions in just a few minutes. We're going to say hello to everybody, and we've got a couple of quick announcements. So, Chris, I'm going to start with you. How are you doing today?
Doing good. It's been raining all day here, so been working extra much in the lab today, and yeah, good progress overall at work. No gym session for me today. I also have some days where I take a day off and take a break to recover. So
Nice.
that's it.
I'm race directing a 10K road race this weekend, and I went out and ran the course today. It has been kind of humid and gross here, so I was sweating my ass off for that, and got out there, and so that was my workout today, and then made it back for Hump Day Hangouts. But Bradley, how about you? What's going on with you?
Busy, crazy busy, but good stuff. Trying to just work on AI stuff, man. I've been really deep into that for the last few weeks now with you guys and also just doing some stuff on my own. So really trying to develop some stuff that going to automate and kind of streamline my own internal operations, which is going to actually reduce overhead and make the business more profitable. So a lot of stuff working on. It's kind of hard to manage doing all the client work as well as develop new processes and all that, but I'm trying to burn the candle at both ends. Just said this week has been raining all week here too, Chris. So it's I haven't been able to go out and work in the yard at all. So I've just been working late, making progress, and that's a good thing. So be sharing more about some of the stuff that we're doing in the next couple of weeks when we get it a little bit further along, but it's pretty exciting. So
Nice. Well, I'll touch on it real quick. Since we sent out an email, I appreciate everyone who's participated in the survey so far. So the story behind this, if you didn't read the email or you haven't seen it yet, is we're going to be launching something new that's specifically for solo operators or small agencies. If you want to build systematic, a repeatable type of business, something you can grow. But before we set about finalizing all of this, we want to make sure we're building what you actually need, not what we think you need. And, between the three of us, and especially Bradley with his local SEO experience, we have experience with agencies, we have experience with clients, we have experience with processes. But we do want to hear from everybody and see what it is that you actually need so we make sure we're creating the right things for you. So I'm going to pop the link into chat. Again, if you get email from Semantic Mastery, it'll be in your inbox already. But the more data we have, the better we can build this and the better it will be when we reveal it. So please take 3 minutes and fill that out. We certainly appreciate it. And other than that, I wanted to touch base on a couple of things that you can take action on now. We've got the Local Mastery newsletter. This is a weekly newsletter where you get 5 to 7 actionable local SEO insights each week. There's an action item for each, and it's all presented, like I said, in a newsletter that you can read in under 30 minutes. And you could just be putting one of these to use every week and seeing some real gains.
yeah.
But you can find out more about that at localmastery.semanticmastery.com. And then also wanted to mention the Local Ops SEO Blueprint. This is, well, I'll let Bradley share a little bit more about that. I would say hold off until next week, but definitely check it out. You can find out more about it at localops.semanticmastery.com. Bradley, do you want to give people kind of the quick rundown on that?
Sure. Local ops is my process for getting local SEO campaigns up and running for new clients. It's the same process that I've developed over the last several years and refined and really got it down to just a science as to what works in the timeline. We have a very precise, it's cookie cutter. Every time we land a new client, we apply the exact same process and the exact same order. The timeline may change slightly, but it's the same exact process as applied to the campaign at the exact same time, or the same sequence every time, and basically. And then, like I said, the timing may change slightly from one campaign to another. But outside of that, it's all the same. And it's the local ops SEO system is basically the roadmap or blueprint that shows the exact same processes that I go through. And there's two options. There's an option for done for you, where you could hire our white label services or our recommended vendors to do the services for you, because in some cases I use vendors. And a lot of this stuff I do internally, but there are some things that I do with vendors. So we have the done for you options through this local ops SEO system, but we also have training and SOPs so that if you want to bring any of those fulfillment services in-house or do them yourself, which I don't recommend because you'll never scale. But if you want to bring them in-house, you certainly can. The SOPs are there for you to be able to train and delegate work to, subordinates. So that's the whole point. Local SEO or local ops SEO system is for, we interview people when they come in. I have an onboarding call with me for the mastermind. Any, new member of the mastermind community, they get a one-on-one 30-minute call with me. And I often ask, what they're struggling with in their business, what their goals are, that kind of stuff. And I often hear that people have, a lot of local SEO professionals or whatever, or local marketing professionals have a hard time getting consistent results for their clients. And then usually I'll ask questions about like, well, do you have a repeatable process? Is it standard operating? Is it the same thing that you do every time? Like, and it usually the answer like nine out of 10 times it's no, right? It's no, we do different things for different clients. And that's why it's hard to scale that way. It's hard to get repeatable, consistent results. But once you have kind of systematized your business and productized your services, which is what I recommend you do so that you can scale, you can create like an assembly line. You can scale a lot better. You can deliver more consistent quality and consistent results. You can develop your you can know your numbers. Like you can get to know your numbers when you have everything productized and then turn into a standard operating procedure, so that then you know what your profit margins are, because you should know what your fulfillment costs are for executing or fulfilling each one of those, deliverables within whatever your services are. Like all of that becomes a lot easier when you develop specific process and productize your services. And that's what the local ops SEO system is. It's my process, and it's now given, we provide you guys with access to our resources. So my process and our resources, so that you can build that. And look, even if you don't plan on using our services, it still will give you a framework that then you can kind of use to model within your own company. So I would encourage everybody to check it out. I think it's one of the better kind of products that we have developed in quite some time, because it really is simple, straightforward, gets to the point, and provides you what you need to get results for clients.
Awesome. Thanks, Bradley. Last thing I wanted to say was, of course, beyond that, if you would like to get all of those, the local mastery and local ops, you can join the mastermind, and we include all of that in the mastermind. So you can find out more about that at mastermind.semanticmastery.com. All right, guys, I think that's it. Let's jump into questions.
Okay, let's do it. And pop chat out this time like I normally do, so give me a minute. What's up, Craig? What's up, Alex? See you guys in chat. All right, let me go ahead and grab the screen, and we'll get into, we got a handful of questions, not too many. So if you guys on the call or that are attending live have any questions or comments or anything you want covered, bring it up, and we should have time. All right, so we're going to start with Shannon. I read this question previously, like when I was preparing for today's Hump Day Hangouts, and I don't understand the question. Sacrificial domains and PMax, Performance Max, I get that, but I don't get the sacrificial domains thing. Maybe I'm missing something. How are these domains able to show ads, and why do they produce fake contact form entries and clicks to the phone link on the website to trick the conversion tracking? I don't know what that really is. So I can't really answer it because I don't understand what you're talking about. And I'm not going to go research that on a live webinar. I don't do any sort of Performance Max campaigns or anything. In fact, got one of my longest, he's my longest running client. It's a roofing contractor in Northern Virginia. And he just contacted me. Well, he always calls me and contacts me on the weekends. I don't know what it is about that dude. He's been my longest running client. I've had him since 2014, I believe. So about 11 years, longest paying client, no question. And anyway, he contacted me over the weekend and was asking about Google Ads, because he's spending $8,150 a month on Yelp ads. No shit, Yelp ads. And so he's asking if he's tired of spending, like the Yelp ads aren't all that good. And I knew that. It's crazy because the last time I talked to him about this was like probably a year and a half ago, and he was spending $5,000 at that time. So he's like more than 50% increased. And anyway, long story short, he was asking me if I could potentially run Google ads for his roofing business. And I said, look, I'm not the Google ads guy. I can do it, but I found it very difficult to become profitable with regular search ads. Local service ads, they are a lot easier to manage. And I've only got one tree service contractor client that I actually manage local service ads for. It's so much easier to set up and manage. and they tend to perform a hell of a lot better, meaning the cost per lead is a lot less than, or cost per acquisition. It's a lot less than it is via regular search ads. And so I asked him, could you get verified if we did local service ads? And he told me the reasons why he doesn't want to go through that vetting process. So then he was asking, can you do it for regular search ads? And I said, well, I can, but just understand that I'm not in the roofing industry. I've found it difficult to become profitable for ads in the tree service industry, which I work in. And I said, so, I'm not promising anything. If you're willing to, I spend a little bit more in the first 4 to 6 weeks while we get the campaign set up and are basically buying data and trying to dial the campaign in, then I'm sure I can run it for you. And so anyway, the reason I bring all that up is because I was, there's, with all the AI and stuff now, there are apps out there that are supposedly really, really good at setting up ads, like agencyapps.com, or whatever. I don't know if it's .com, but Agency Apps is, recently they've been doing a lot of promotions. There's a number of email lists that I'm on that I've been receiving lately, offers and, webinars and things like that, webinar invitations to, go buy, these AI integrations or apps that will set up and manage and optimize Google Ads campaigns. And I've thought about purchasing a couple of them so that perhaps I could get better at Google Ads, but I don't have the fucking bandwidth for it. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, that's just one more thing that I would put on my plate, knowing that it would eat at me to learn and spend time learning and kind of, becoming proficient with and all of that. And it's just, it's too much. I got too much on my plate already with some of the AI stuff that I'm doing for building processes and also streamlining my own internal operations and things like that. It's just one more thing I can't take on. So I had a chat with him and told him, like, let's, the offer stands. If he wants me to do it, I can do it, because I said, we'll set up a simple landing page and just apply a proper budget, use some of the automated bidding strategies within Google Ads now, which use AI, make it a little bit easier to manage, but I haven't got a reply back from him. So I don't do any ad stuff because it's been very difficult to become profitable. Like I said, I got one tree service client right now that's doing local service ads, and that it's the only one I've ever managed, because none of my other contractors ever wanted to go through the vetting process to become verified, right? So, but I know it, with AI and everything, I would assume that it would be easier to set up and manage profitable campaigns, but without getting in there and testing it myself, I don't want to claim that, right, or promise that to any potential client. So anyway, can't really answer anything about Performance Max. I know what it is, I just don't use it. So I can't provide any answers for that. Sorry about that. Next one is from Alex. He says, hey, I think you may have spoken about this in the past. I'm sure you have. My question is, should we keep or remove the / after the .com when sending links to the root domain? Well, just look at how, look at the domain, like look, go visit both versions of the URL, right? So the homepage URL, so with and without the trailing / and take a look at it. Or just open up the page source of whichever version you've got open and look at, is there a canonical that is pointing to one particular version of it? Because look, if the hosting is set up properly, well, it depends. I mean, it depends on how it's configured, right? But like for WordPress, and by the way, if you just visit the URL, again, it depends on how the host or the server is configured. It usually there's going to be a default setting. It's either going to include it or omit it. And if the hosting is set up or configured properly, the way, like at least in my opinion, if it's configured properly, the URL is always going to automatically redirect to the appropriate version. So that's either with or without the trailing /. But I've seen it because I do audits and competitive link analysis reports all the time for other SEO professionals and agencies, right? So all the time I'm reviewing other people's work, other websites and work that other SEOs have done, and I see that a lot. In fact, I just did an audit today where I again showed, and yesterday, 2 days in a row, I've had audits where I showed that the URLs, when I do a page, a website crawl, and I export all the pages, the page URLs, the SEO titles, H1s, all that kind of stuff, so I can look for over optimization, duplication, redundancy, points of crawl resistance, or technical SEO errors, all that type of stuff. And where I will often see where there will be, with a website crawl, duplicate page URLs, one with the trailing / and one without. And when I see that in the crawl report, then I know that the server isn't configured to automatically redirect to whatever the appropriate default version is, if that's clear. And so if you go open up both versions of the URL, because they will both resolve instead of having one version automatically redirect, which is what I think is the proper configuration. And again, that's usually done by the host, right? At the server level. So I recommend to my clients that have, when I see that, like, contact your host. But in any case, you can have a canonical that points to the whatever the appropriate version is, either the with or without. So the answer to the question is, when you're building links, should you build to it with or without? Find out what the appropriate version is and build to that. Now, it's not really, here's the thing. If both URLs resolve because the servers or the host is not configured properly to automatically redirect, then if you're building links to the version that is canonicalized to whatever the appropriate default version is. So in other words, let's say the default version is including the trailing slash, okay, past the domain extension, right? So it always includes the trailing slash. Let's just say that's the default version. But then you can build a link to the non-default version, which would be the .com or whatever the domain extension is without the trailing slash. And if the canonical is set up properly to always reference or push the credit to the version with whatever the default version is with the trailing slash in this example, then technically it will still pass the link equity through the canonical to that page URL, right? Even though the link is direct, it's not a redirect, the link equity is supposed to pass through a canonical. I found that not to be as effective, though. It's better just to have a redirect, just to be clear. So to get back to the question again, I would double check to see, if the redirect is set up, then building a link to either version is fine because the link equity is passing as it should through the 301 redirect, as long as it's a 301 redirect. Do you understand? So if the host is set up properly, where the URL is always going to auto redirect to whatever the default version is, then that is better, because anytime you build a link to any of either the version with or without the trailing slash, it's going to pass through the 301 redirect to the appropriate version. When it's a canonical and not a redirect setup, it's supposed to pass link equity, and it will pass trust flow. I know that for sure, which is Majestic's metric, but I don't know if it's actually passing page rank or not. And I found that when it's just a canonical, the link is not as building links to the canonicalized URL, which canonicalizes to the appropriate version, doesn't produce as much of a result. Here's an example. Batch geo maps. We provide batch geo maps all the time for clients. It's part of our standard operating procedures for the branded assets bundle, right? Whether it's we have a service called Brand Builder or a lesser service called Branded Assets or the Branded Assets bundle. And in either case, a batch geo map is always included, a batch geo map stack. So it's a batch geo map along with 4 cloud pages. But for whatever reason, my vendor delivers the batch geo maps sometimes with the www present in the URL and sometimes without. But the actual version, the appropriate version, is with www. And so we'll build links to whatever version. Like I recently caught this, is what I'm saying. Like within just the last month, I caught this, that some of the URLs when the vendor sends them to us from the batch geo maps don't have www, and they should, because they canonicalize to the www version. And so I caught it, and I started over the last month or so, every time I go in to analyze and review link assignments for my white label clients, I check the batch geo map URL and see if it doesn't have the www. I then revise the URL in the workbook and add it in so that as we build new links to it, it will be to the appropriate version. So what I'm getting at, though, is I can go look at the www version of a batch geo map URL when all we have ever built links to was the non-www version, and it doesn't auto redirect. Both versions will resolve in the browser, but the non-www version has a canonical pointing to the www version. And so what I'm getting at is we can build links to either one. And in the case where the URL was delivered to us without www, we were building links to it without that. But the canonical is still pushing the trust flow value to the appropriate version, which would be that includes www. Hopefully that makes sense. So I know it passes trust flow. Is it as effective as a redirect? I don't think so. And through my own testing, I haven't seen that. So that's why I say I would recommend just getting it done through your server, your host. Contact them, ask them like, hey, if both URLs resolve, fix it to where it auto redirects to with or without the trailing slash, whatever is the default settings for that host. Typically, okay, that's what I would do. Better off that way. But if it's because that's what I'm saying. If it's a redirect, no matter which way you build links to it, you do get a little bit of link equity loss through a redirect. That's a hop, right? Each hop from a redirect loses a little bit of link equity, but it's a very, very minor amount. Whereas a pushing credit through a canonical, I believe it loses quite a bit. And again, that's just from my own kind of testing. Okay. Anyway, Mike says, does joining the monthly or quarterly mastermind include access to DHA SOPs? Yes, I've been very clear about that for months, if not well over a year. Yeah, everything in the DHA program, the coaching program, is available to mastermind members. It just doesn't come with the additional coaching. But to be clear, because it's in the mastermind, if you go through the SOPs and as long as you're in the mastermind, if you've got questions about anything in the SOPs, you can ask them in the general mastermind community. That's what it's for. That's what the mastermind community is for. It's for ongoing support and training. It's current ongoing support and training, right? And so the DHA coaching program is only for those people that need the additional accountability and the additional coaching and somebody behind them kicking them in the ass on a daily or weekly basis. That's what that's for. But if you're able to manage your own time, then yeah, you join the mastermind. Everything's available to our mastermind members in the mastermind. Okay. And if you got questions about any of that stuff, you don't have to be in the coaching program, the additional coaching program, to ask questions about the DHA SOPs. It's all still part of the mastermind. You can ask questions at any time in the community, and I'm happy to provide answers. Okay. Are in all the phases of DHA built out? Well, the first one, which is the big one, the lead generation and marketing and lead generation machine and automated communications to get the prospect to the sales call, which is the listing delivery call, which is the start of the sales conversation. That one's fully complete. Like all the SOPs are complete. Then the second one is phase 2. The second group is phase 2, which is sales and fulfillment. And we have the sales and fulfillment on there's really fulfillment for. Actually, the fulfillment SOPs are available for all three. I don't have a phase 2 program built yet for DHA, where we've not done an actual phase 2 group yet. But yeah, the SOPs are built out because we have the service area radius and listing delivery SOP, which is really the last SOP, was the second last SOP in DHA phase 1. And then we have the fulfillment SOPs for local lead generation sites, although that's changing. Google Business Basic SEO, reactivation and reviews, and an AI answering service. So those are kind of the fulfillment services that we use for the DHA program. And so we do have SOPs for those front-end services. I just don't have the sales training out yet I haven't developed a specific sales training component, but I'm happy to teach sales in the mastermind. In fact, I do quite a bit anyway, because I do probably 70% of the sales now across my agencies. I do have a salesperson in my link building business. And he does probably 50 or 60% of my sales calls for that, but I still do the sales calls for everything else. So I'll share that. If you want to join the mastermind, come join the mastermind. You'll get the support you need. The SOPs are available. In the mastermind, I do a separate host a webinar every Thursday. Every other week, it's the mastermind webinar, which is an actual webinar, and it's usually an hour and a half to 2 hours long. And that's usually where I'm doing some kind of formal training or Q&A or reviewing or auditing one of our members' projects or campaigns that are asking for support, that kind of stuff. And then the other Thursdays, we do the Build with Bradley meeting, which is an actual discussion group, so Zoom meetings instead of a webinar. And those are usually an hour, but sometimes they'll go longer, an hour and a half, depending on the day and whether I've got other appointments scheduled. But those are always good too, because we have discussions, which is great, but then I can also provide specific individual help for people that attend the call and that kind of stuff. So the point that I'm trying to make is you always have access on Thursdays to ask questions on one of the webinars about the DHA stuff if needed. That's what it's there for, every Thursday. Okay. I know that's why some people I know probably just like, ah, not just another mastermind, but I mean, that's how we keep current with everything, guys. We can sell courses, but the problem with selling a course is it becomes outdated and you have to continually support it. So that's our mastermind became our support, if that makes sense. Because that way, anything that we teach, whether it's SOPs, old trainings, or whatever, it's always maintained current in the mastermind because we have a weekly webinar, right? And you can ask questions, that kind of thing. All right, next question. Mike says, I just purchased the standard plan of LeadScrape a couple of years ago, or I purchased the standard plan of LeadScrape a couple of years ago through AppSumo and can upgrade to their business plan for 150 a year. However, as the data output is good as Outscraper, including Google Maps, Yelp, and social data, I noticed a previous Hump Day Hangouts that the SOP for LeadScrape is deprecated. How come and why? And why is Outscraper preferred? Because LeadScrape runs on your desktop. And it's a resource hog. So like if you're going to run LeadScrape, you have to, I recommend that you set it up to run at the end of your business day or at the end of your work day or whatever, that's when you run it and let it run for, overnight, because it will literally, even with, I've got, a good PC, man, with a lot of memory and all that stuff. And it was still like slow your computer down to a crawl if you're trying to work on the PC at the same time that you're running that program. And number two, it's just I just found Outscraper. There was a deal on Outscraper, excuse me, on AppSumo for Outscraper that I bought. It's in the local ops. Well, I don't know if it's in local ops, but it's probably not in local ops, but it's in one of the DHA SOPs. I don't know if the link is still valid, but there was a offer on AppSumo for for Outscraper, which it was a one-time fee and you get $20 a month in scraper credits for life. They don't roll over, so you have to use them or you lose them. But I bought that, I don't know, 2 years ago, and I still had to fund my Outscraper account a couple times, but top it up with adding some funds to it. But for the most part, I've been able to get for the last 2 years almost. I mean, other than I probably added $150 over the last 2 years to Outscraper, but I've been using that $20 lifetime deal, like recurring credit or whatever that they give you every month ever since. And so I stopped using LeadScrape specifically because it was a resource hog. Also, when I brought on a partner for about a year and a half, I had a partner for Tree Care HQ, which is where I do the scraping and everything. And in order for him to have access to, like, we wanted to be able to have team members, not just him, but other VAs and things like that to be able to access. And each one of them would have to have their own LeadScrape license in order for them, unless I ran it on a VPN or VPS, excuse me. But so we just ended up going with Outscraper because it's easier. Everybody can use the same login. It was less expensive. It works good. So I just go with Outscraper. Okay. And there's SOPs, by the way, Mike, in the mastermind specifically for that. In fact, I'll just demonstrate that because we got time. If we go over here and take a look at the SOPs, I'll show you what I mean. This is the SOP section. We're going to look at DHA SOPs is going to be the contact list. That's going to be for the exactly what I'm talking about. So if we click into here, this just takes you to the import page to import the template, but I'll show you what that looks like so that you can see it. I recommend, by the way, if anybody joins the mastermind, like pretty much going to need a Flowster account, but you can get a Flowster account for $14 a month. Okay. So just to be clear about that, right here, contact list. So here's what it looks like. What I recommend is using Outscraper Preferred, and right here is the training for that. And it goes through these are my SOPs, guys. Like, it was very detailed. I did this. These SOPs have been worked on and continued to be developed for 4 years now, right? I've added every time we go through another group through the DHA program, the coaching program, I mean, anytime that anything is found that needs to be updated, it's updated. Or if anything, if a question comes through from one of the coaching members about an SOP, then that means the SOP didn't provide enough detail. Does that make sense? So because we've gone through 4 groups through the phase 1 program, these SOPs have been revised and re-revised and re-revised and more detail added, et cetera, to the point now that this last group that went through, I mean, less than 10, I do a daily office hours call for an hour. Well, it was an hour, but because nobody was showing up for the first like 5 or 6 weeks at all to the office hour calls, I reduced it to 30 minutes. And that's because the SOPs are so developed that there's not really any questions, which is great. And we have a group accountability meeting every Monday. And a lot of times, if there was anything that people needed help with, they just bring it up on the group call. But I still show up. I was on a group office hours call this morning for 30 minutes. Nobody showed up. so anyway, very, very detailed SOPs. It gives you exact steps, the screenshots, everything else on exactly what to do in order to get the best results from Outscraper. Okay. James, the next battle plan is local ops SEO system. We talked about that at the beginning of today. Local ops SEO system is the replacement for battle plan. Okay. That is the replacement for battle plan. It's current. It is exact processes that we use. So there you go. Local ops SEO system. Moving on. Okay. So Outscraper, Mike, I recommend it as a better service in my opinion. And even if you got to pay for it, it's very inexpensive, right? Don't buy all those stupid add-ons. That's what I was showing you right here is what additional add-ons to click and why. Like for example, email address verifier. That's something I talk about, before, like email verification is now added to all services. Like it's an add-on, right? Like in other words, on Outscraper, you can do email verification. You can get the Outscraper list, the exported list of the contact scraped, and then go to an external scraping service like Neverbounce. I've been using Neverbounce for 5 years. Okay. But when you import to Instantly, which is the cold emailing app that we use, right? The email service app or whatever that we use, Instantly has a email verification option to when you import the list, it will verify the email. Then when you get a contact that replies to the cold email and it pipes the data, the contact, it creates a new contact through it via a webhook. It pushes the contact and creates a new contact in high level, plus creates an opportunity card in the appropriate pipeline and all that. That's all part of the SOPs and the workflows that I've built. High level has a email address verifier option that you can turn on. So it's really not necessary to even do an email address verifier through Outscraper because you can do it any of those other steps too. I double and triple verify my emails because that's why I'm able to keep my email reputation sending domain up really high. Okay, here, let me give you an example. I'm going to go look at Instantly very quickly. But why I said that is because you don't, if you don't spend a shit ton of money on an Outscraper with all that unnecessary information that it will pull in, then it's very inexpensive. Okay. So here's what I was showing. These are my email accounts that I use for cold email campaigns. And I've been doing this for 5 years now. I've only been using Instantly for about the last year and a half, but look at this, guys. I've got the same accounts in here. Not one time since I've started using Instantly and keeping my volume down the way that I keep it down, and then also doing the email verifications like I just mentioned and all of that. I've never dropped an email reputation or health score down below a 96. And once it's gotten a 96, if it gets down as low as 96%, then I will stop using that for cold email, but leave it in the warm-up process until the reputation, the health score goes back up. So anything underneath a 97, I cancel or I suspend that email account from sending cold emails. I keep it in the warm-up system though. And then once it gets back to 99 or 100, then I'll reactivate that domain. I haven't lost a single domain, not burned one domain yet in the last year and a half. No kidding. So it works. It works really well. And a lot of these we're mailing from consistently and we still have 99, 100%. See what I'm saying? So again, all of that is taught in the SOPs. All right, moving on. Next one is YouTube comment was asking about automated GMB posting or Google Business Profile posting now. I did review this earlier. The recommendation, that's a very old video. That was for Citation Builder Pro. I use OneUp app. I've been using OneUp app for GB posting for 4 or 5 years now. Although High Level does it now, like High Level Social Planner, it works well. The only thing that sucks about it is it constantly drops the connection to Facebook. I don't know why. It constantly needs to reconnect to Facebook. It's a pain in the ass. But outside of that, it works good, So if you're using high level, then I recommend just using the social planner in high level so you don't have yet another app. But I use OneUp app because it's been worked into our processes before high level had that option, all of that. So my team uses OneUp app. Okay. James says, how many emails per domain on Instantly? I do, well, I reduced my sending volume for the most previous campaign that I got running, but usually remember, I keep all of my domains in warm up in the kind of, once it gets to the full warm up, like volume or, whatever quantity, the total number of emails sent on a daily basis is 30. So that's like, you can adjust that, but I just leave the default settings. And so it warms up till it gets to the point where it's sending 30 emails a day into the warm-up system, right? And then there's a percentage of them that receive replies from the other campaigns. So keep that you have to always remember that. The most that I would send for any particular sending domain the most emails that I would allow it to send on any one particular sending domain was 60 per day. That includes the 30 per day warm-up. So in other words, if I were to create a campaign and Instantly, okay, and then I want to go add the email accounts into that campaign, like let me just demonstrate. We're going to go into campaigns and click into this one, and we're going to go to options. And right here, you'll see that I've got 5 email accounts that are sending right now, but I'm only doing 8 per day per account. So this is my total daily limit of maximum number of emails to be sent out per day, so it's 40 is what I have set right now. So that's only 8 emails per day because I've got 5 accounts here. Do you understand what I'm saying? So for about a year, I ran with 5 email accounts in the campaign running at 15 per day. So 15 emails per account per day. So 75 emails max here. And that included but the most that I've ever done was 30 per email account. And that was so here's the thing. When I first started doing this, I had less sending domains. And so I would add more send emails per domain per day, basically. And then I was like, well, why do that? Because I started warming up more and more domains just in case I burn domains. And I haven't burned any domains, like I said, in a year and a half now, since I've been using Instantly. And so because of that, I just add more domains now and lower the number of sending emails sent per domain. And that's why my email reputation or health score stays so high, I think, is because I've just spread it out across so many domains. And so, like I said, I've only slowed down my campaigns recently because I'm trying to integrate some AI stuff into my business operations, and I'm trying to slow lead volume down for Tree Care HQ specifically, to buy myself more time to finish building these AI integrations that I'm trying to build. So that's precisely why I slowed the kind of cadence down a little bit. But I found that usually if you stay between 10 to 20 emails per day, in addition to your warming, then that keeps you at below 50 emails per day. And that's where I found is kind of the sweet spot. Like these are all workspace accounts. So, and workspace says that I think their capacity is 2,000 emails per day per workspace email account. And I don't know if I'm pretty sure that's per account, email account, not the domain entirely, because you could have multiple team members on the same domain, right? But I would never want to get anywhere near that, right? I recommend staying at below 50 or below emails per day per account, and that includes warm up. So just keep that in mind, right? If you add three emails, sending domains, then I would do a maximum of 60 per day that way, which would be 20 per day per email plus the 30. So it keeps you at the threshold of 50 or below. Hopefully that's clear. Okay, last 2, and then we'll jump into comments for the remainder time. Huzzy says, if I wanted to create multiple personal LLG sites for my own online service business, would it be a good idea to build out branded Web 2s, ID page, citations, etc., if I don't have a GBP attached to it? Yeah, I mean, we talked about this before, Huzzy, or maybe it was Huzaifa that I was talking to, but in any case, yeah, look, building branded assets is important, whether you have a GBP or not. If having a Google business profile is better because that's an entity validator, at least within Google, it is. Right? Because you go through it really is it's why you go through a verification process and everything else. It really validates the branded business location. That's what it's for. Okay. So that's certainly better to have a GBP, but if you don't have a GBP, you can still build brand authority, right? Might not be specific location, branded location authority, because you need a verified business location for that, but you can still build brand authority. So when I talk about building branded location authority, I'm talking about building brand authority, but to a specific physical location, right? Which is the business location, right? Or at least one of them, right? Because it could be multi-location business. That's why I say branded location authorities, because we're talking about building authority to one particular location, but it benefits or influences the overall brand authority too. So if you've got a business without a physical address, a physical location, you still build brand authority. It's just not branded location authority. Does that make sense? How do you do it? You still reference, just like you would a local business, name, phone, maybe not a physical address, but the name, phone number, website, right? So name, address, phone number, website. We always talk about NAPW when we're talking about building branded location authority. Well, you just omit the address. You can still have name, phone number, website, right? Other social media interlinking everything the same way that we've been teaching for years, right? Originally IFTTT SEO, then Syndication Academy, now Brand Expander. It's the same thing. You build branded assets, interlink them, make sure that they're discoverable or assist with discoverability by, if you have a GBP, linking out to them. If you don't have a GBP, put them in the schema, right? You might not have a branded business location, so you wouldn't use local business schema, but you would use organization or some subtype, corporation, medical business, or medical organization, excuse me. Any one of those types of organization schema types, you can still reference same as attributes. Same as attributes would be any of those external page URLs that reference name, phone, website address, or some combination of those data points, right? Still a citation, whether it's a actual physical business or not, it's still a citation because it's a published mention of the brand and its assets, website, phone number, etc. Right? That's again a citation. It's citing a source, referencing the brand information. So that's a citation, even if it's not an actual physical local business. So yes, you do want to continue to build branded assets, guys. Branded location of, I always talk about local SEO because that's what I do. But I can only imagine, I don't do national and non-local. I mean, I do link building for some campaigns, but personally, I don't work on any campaigns that are other than like my directory site or something. But I can only imagine brand authority has an influence on non-local stuff as much as branded location authority does on local searches, if that's clear. All right. Is there a way to rank websites over GBPs and local SERPs? Yeah, it happens from time to time, but it's kind of rare, and it's always up to Google, whether Google is going to show the map pack at the top or an organic, or sometimes a couple of organic listings above the pack. It's possible. I see it all the time. I mean, it happens. I don't see it all the time, but I see it often. So yes, it's possible, but that's up to Google. It's nothing that we can do to force that all the time, unless you get into, what do they call it, position 0, right? So anyway. All right, guys, we're pretty much done. Look at the comments and questions, and then we'll wrap up a little bit early today. That's good. Mustafa says, I have one question about local SEO. Go ahead, man. You're here. You feel free to ask, Mustafa, if you're still on. Post your question and I'll answer it for you. James says, when's the next battle plan coming out? Okay, I already mentioned that. That is local SEO ops, or the local ops SEO system, excuse me. That's what that is. That is the replacement for the battle plan. Costco says, are you still tracking organic rankings after? Yeah, Zutrix, it's funny you say that. That's what I was just showing this. I posted this in, well, I think somebody else posted it. Yeah, this right here. And this sucks. This pisses me off, man, because Zutrix was awesome. Very inexpensive. I was on the agency plan, right? It was like $59 a month for 2,500 keywords. And they 600% increase in pricing, 600% increase. They went from $60 a month to $59 a month to $299 a month. As of tomorrow, that pricing goes into effect. And so I contacted them. Well, I tried to downgrade my subscription myself. I went through and cleared out a bunch of LLG stuff, LLG sites that I was tracking and all that stuff. I said, screw that. I'm not paying that kind of money, $300 a month to track a bunch of these things, but I can just do it with Search Console for free. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's not the same, but I can still see the performance of it and all that kind of stuff. So no, I'm not spending money on that shit. Not for rank tracking. Forget that. No way. use Search Console for that. I use Bright Local for all my primary local campaigns. I was only using Zootrix for organic only stuff. And I did keep I got the starter plan because a number of my white label clients that are non-local campaigns, I use Zootrix for reporting for them, because if they don't have a GBP, we can't add them to Bright Local. So for my non-local white label link building clients, when it's a non-local campaign, I mean, I've used Zootrix. So I did keep one of my subscription levels so that I can still track those, if that's clear. Yeah, I see that they have a cheaper plan for weekly refreshes. I saw that. And just, I think somebody just commented in the mastermind about that today specifically. And so I didn't know that, but I don't know. I might check that out, but it still went up like, I think 100% pricing even for that. So, let's see. How often do you split test the email copy? I don't, Alex. I haven't, because the copy that I use is just asking them to confirm their, here, I'll just demonstrate it again. It's just asking them to confirm their, contact information. And it's, we always look, I've talked about this before. We intentionally leave the website out, even if we have that data, we leave it out intentionally. It's a reason to get them to reply back. Right. And this is all done with spin text. So I haven't split test any of this stuff because it works. Like, although it's interesting, the response rate has come down a little bit. My open rate has come down a bit, because I'm not going to say it's really come down, but I've had campaigns using this exact same sequence. I haven't changed it in 4 years. No kidding. I don't think I've changed that sequence in 4 years. But I've got as much as 85% open rates. No kidding. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I've had as much as 85% open rates. And right now, the last 2 campaigns that I've run, I had, the previous campaign was like 45% open rate, which was about the lowest that I've seen in years. And this one's hovering at about 51%. Over the last 2 or 3 campaigns, I've averaged roughly 55% open rates. But that's still really good for cold email. That makes sense. I probably should change up that sequence a bit. I haven't yet, because it's still working. And it's one of those things, if it ain't broke, why fix it? You know what I mean? So remember, my conversion is just to get them to reply. That's my conversion goal, is to get them just to reply. Because once they reply, all my other automated communications occur through the high level automations and workflows. It's not instantly. Instantly is just to get them to reply to that first cold email, to any one of the cold emails. That's it. And that's what I'm showing you here in the sequence. Is there's 5 emails that goes out every other day over the course of 10 days. And they're all using spin tags, so that each time it's each time an email is sent, it's a slightly different version. Hopefully that's clear. I'm getting amazing open rates and response. Just got to run more campaigns. Yeah, Alex, if you are, that's the thing, scale your volume up and you'll get, I've throttled mine down for the reasons I described earlier. I'm really trying to streamline my operations, reduce overhead by integrating AI. I've got a lot of people hired up. That's how I've always done my business. I've built SOPs and trained personnel. But I was talking about this the other day on Hump Day Hangouts. I believe I talked about it in the mastermind too. Like, in my link building business alone, I pay between, on average right now, $10,000 a month in content fees, because I have 18 team members that are humans that prompt AI to generate the content, but then they edit the content, they insert the links, all that kind of stuff. And so on average, I'm spending $10,000 a month to pay labor costs for my content team, right? And that's like, I could reduce that to probably 10% of that cost, that overhead, by just building an AI system that will do the same thing, to where we only need like 2 or 3 human editors instead of 18. Does that make sense? Because I still want to keep that whole human editor process component in the process. I mean, the human editing component into my overall process. But I don't need 18 content writers, or they're not writers, but they're, whatever. Let's call them editors. I don't need 18 editors, right? I need 2, maybe 3. And then I could reduce my costs significantly. And that's instant profit margin. You understand that? If I just lower my overhead, but it's not affecting, all I'm doing is increasing my profit margins, my profitability. And so that's like part of the reason why I said I haven't messed with a lot of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This hasn't been broke. So I got other bigger fish to fry at the moment. You know what I mean? So Alex says, I'm having a hard time getting them to book the delivery call though, or they don't show. Yeah, I get a lot of no-shows, but as I talked about Alex, this must be the same Alex. It's Alex Z. Um, uh, like I said, if it depends on how the communication is going up until the no-show of the booked appointment. If we have good communication, not, and it meaning if the contact is conversing with the automated communications, because we have everything built with workflows and high level, and I have the AI integration. So even the AI outbound voice calls, like we'll call the contact to get them to schedule the appointment or ask follow-up questions if they don't reply to the SMS or the emails within the sequence. We have the voice agent now that actually makes outbound calls to verify information and that kind of stuff. So if I go look at the chat history, when I go to get onto the appointment, when it's a booked appointment with the tree contractor, right? So they go through the process, they book the appointment. And I get a lot of no-shows, a lot of them, which I understand though, because I understand their business. Those are busy guys, and they're always going to allow work to get in the way of a meeting where they, with somebody that they don't know that's online, especially tree guys, So anyway, I go look at their high level. I always have their high level contact record pulled up when I'm about to get on the call, the meeting anyway, and I just look at the communication history. It's all contained in the conversation view of the contact record. So I can see like all the AI integration, like the AI conversations and everything, it's all contained in that conversation view. So I can just scroll through there and see how engaged was that contact with our communication sequences and AI and all of that up until that meeting. And if there's good engagement where they were, then meaning that our system had built rapport with the contact, then I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. And that's when I talked about this in the mastermind, but I have a 30-minute time block scheduled for those calls. And so if the communication was good and I see that they were very engaged with it, then if they don't show within the first 10 minutes, then I cancel the point, I close down the Zoom meeting, and then I'll spend the remainder 20 minutes recording a video, explaining to them exactly what I was going to talk to them about on the call anyways. And I just send it to them afterwards. Like, hey, showed, I get it. You're busy. Things happen. You're tree guys. I know that happens. So no problem. Here's what I was going to discuss with you on the call anyway. And I send it to them. Just review it when you get a chance and just reply back and let me know if you have any questions, blah, blah, blah. And then I just plug them right into whatever the emails, the nurture sequence is that I was going to discuss with them anyway. If that's clear. And I've talked about this in the mastermind. I default usually to the reviews, reactivation and reviews front end service right now. It's just one of the best foot in the doors services ever. So anyway, if the communication is not great, like if it's just like real short answers and things like that, and then no show, I just put them right into a nurture sequence. I'm not going to spend any more time if they no show, and I don't see that there was like any indication that they were more interested. Then I'll just put them directly into some sort of a nurture sequence. But if they were interested, then I'll send them, a video. Basically, that's how I used to do it before I used to book calls. I used to just always send a video. So it's kind of habit for me anyway. You know what I mean? And it works because a lot of those guys will appreciate actually the fact that you sent them what you wanted to send them, that they can review it when they're not busy or putting out fires or playing whack-a-mole like most business owners do on a daily basis, So that's part of the reason why video email works so well, is because it allows you to get your pitch across when it's convenient for the contact, right? So, all right, guys, let's wrap it up right a couple minutes early, which is very rare. We appreciate you guys. Do have a mastermind webinar tomorrow, so we'll see some of you there tomorrow. Otherwise,